Hello up there, this is Wake Angel 2001, and you know something that I was always kind of interested in but never really got into? The Mattel Halo toy line. But with the clearance sales going on in all the Toys R Us's, this was brought down by enough price that I figured I could go ahead and get a quick jump in before they're gone forever from when Toys R Us is gone forever. So this is Kelly-087, one of the female Spartans, because I do have a love of the female Spartan armor from the Halo toy lines. So let's take a look at the action figure contained within the box. So here is the rather impressive Kelly-087. She comes with a Build-A-Figure part. According to the box, it's called the Crawler Snipe. I believe this is the Crawler Snipe's head. It has a set of articulated jaw things, and you can see holes where it's supposed to connect to other stuff to make the figure, but I really don't think I'll be collecting the whole thing. So the figure itself is actually really nice. Usually when you have toys that have snap-on armor, when all that armor is put on, it kind of looks like a silly balloon person, but everything still looks quite in proportion and very good. There's detailing on the armor, and it's really nicely sculpted. So it's good to know that even though this is technically a gimmick toy because you're supposed to be able to take the armor on and off, everything on it still looks really good and would still satisfy collectors. Before we continue, I just wanted to get a quick comparison with some other Halo figures I own, including a McFarlane figure and a Sprue kit. Both the McFarlane and Sprue kit figures are 5-inch, while the Mattel ones are 6-inch, so they don't really scale with each other unless they actually are existing like giant 8-foot tall Spartan people in the Halo franchise. I don't know because I never actually played the Halo games, but I suspect that this is not the case. Of course, you're never going to beat the McFarlane's awesome weathered paint effects because that just looked really cool. But this does look a lot more realistically textured than the Sprue kits, which are really just basic plastic models with only a few sticker detailings. So let's get these out of the way. The figure comes with two weapons, a hand pistol and the big old rifle you saw her holding, and they can peg into the sides of the figure. The gun goes onto the back, and the cool thing is that the peg itself is removable, so you can have a clean gun sculpt. See, no peg sticking off. I mean, you got a hole in it, but hey, you gotta have a compromise somewhere. Also, the hands are sculpted with perfect trigger fingers, and the guns fit in there perfectly. You saw her two-hand holding the rifle in the beginning of the video, but I just wanted, for completion's sake, to show her holding the handgun as well. Despite having a snap-on armor gimmick, the figure has a lot of articulation, and it isn't really hindered in any way by the snap-on gimmick. Now there is a thing where, on this particular figure, the ball joint for her head is ridiculously loose for some reason. I don't know how that happened or why, but every time I try to pose it, I had to be careful to make sure it doesn't slump down. I don't know if that's a line-wide issue or just this one toy that I bought, but it is something to look out for. So she has like a ball joint in her abs, which allows it to be a waist joint and to get some arch and crunch. There are pin discs in her shoulders, allowing for a full range of universal movement. Double jointed elbows, which you never see in toys made by Mattel. Like, how come they don't do that for any of their DC superhero figures, huh? What makes Halo so special that they get the double jointed elbows? I mean, that, like, and then the hips get super huge range. They can go back all the way, I mean, they can go out all the way, they can go forward all the way, so they can ride in vehicles. They don't really get a lot far back, but that's really something with a sculpted butt is just a common issue. double jointed knees, so you get a nice deep bend, and there is foot articulation. They can go backwards, they can go forwards. They don't have an ankle tilt, but the shoe fits just loosely enough that you can kind of use the armor in the shoe as kind of a replacement for the ankle tilt, allowing it to keep a flat-footed stance even when the feet are apart. So yeah, it's a very well articulated figure even with the armor on. Of course, if you're going to have a figure with a whole bunch of removable armor, one thing you're going to want to do is to see what it looks like with the armor taken off. So let's go ahead and do that. I feel I should just take a close look at the forearm armor, because as you can see, it's not some little snap-on thing that you put on like that Warcraft figure I reviewed. It goes all the way around the arm and is one continuous piece. So to remove it, you actually have to take the hand off of the peg. It's relatively simple to do, and the plastic tolerances are engineered for this. And then you simply slide the forearm armor off. So yeah, that's how that works. I actually do really like this because like you never see this. And on the shins, they capture the effect by making it two pieces that slot into each other. There's a peg hole that goes into the back of the shin and a peg hole that goes onto the calf in the front, and they have a seam that causes them to snap and hold on to each other, again creating one continuous thing without a big obvious gap. Of course, they couldn't. It seems that they weren't able to rig something up similar for the thighs or the biceps, possibly because there's a lot of articulation going around there, especially with the thigh and bicep swivels. So I'm going to forgive them for that, because at least they got the shins and the forearms, which is probably the hardest part. Also, there's no real sole on the shoe, but again, I think that's just to accommodate getting it on and off a little easier. One last thing about the armor. It's flexible where it needs to be and stiff where it needs to be. So they actually put a lot of effort into the plastic tolerances on this thing so that we would, like, this is a very stiff, hard plastic, and this is a much more flexible plastic. And because this is a piece of shin armor, and this is a part that has to flex all around our chest and back. So it's really cool that they actually varied up the plastic tolerances depending on where they would be able to serve best. And this is what Kelly looks like with her armor taken off. Now the big question is why? These parts seem to me that they're very precisely made. So it's not like you'll be able to swap armor bits from one character to the other. But why would we have removable armor then anyway? I mean, was this a thing in the games? I admit, again, never played a Halo game, so did they just have some kind of Zero Suit Samus envy and they wanted to show what the armor looks like when the plates are all taken off? Or is this an actual thing you see in the game where they have like some kind of underlayer to their armor that it gets added to? It's really kind of confusing. I don't know why they incorporated this gimmick. Of course, the under armor looks cool. It has a... oh, I forgot one last piece. It has a lot of detailing. I mean, you can see the mechanical stuff. You can see like chainmail looking things. Like, you know, it's all there. It's all really nice. So even without her armor, the figure is beautiful and well sculpted. Although I really wish the helmet was removable. Like, I understand if you put a helmet onto a figure this size, it's gonna look like some kind of over-bloated mascot thing that they stick on their head. But, you know, like, maybe have a swapping head gimmick. Like, you can take off this helmeted head and put on a regular human head. I mean, I don't know if these characters actually had faces in the game, but, you know, if you're gonna do a removable armor gimmick, you may as well make the helmet part of it, right? Yeah, I mean, if you look inside, there's no head in there. Yeah, it's just that. And I admire the double ball joint thing they had going on. But it would make the articulation really good. Only problem is that, like I said, it's so loose and wobbly. Like, a double ball joint is good, but only if it's actually firm. So, yeah, I already ran down the articulation, and like I said, the armor fits so well, it's not like removing the armor will suddenly make it even more posable. Because it's just as posable with the armor on as it is with it off. The only thing is, I question, why did they even bother making the armor removable? Because as far as I'm aware, that's not a mechanic in the games. Or is it? All of you Halo players down there, correct me in the description. Like, why would you want to do this? So, that's my review of the Kelly figure. It's a really good figure, and it actually rivals anything made by Hasbro in terms of articulation, especially with those wonderful double-jointed elbows and knees, which you don't normally see on Mattel figures. But that being said, I really only am tangentially familiar with the Halo franchise, so I best be shutting up now before I embarrass myself. This is Wake Angel 2001, signing off.